Hello, 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 everybody. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your patience. If you're waiting, we had to start a little bit late because our special guest today got caught in some traffic. So thankfully, he made it safely to his destination. He's actually at a job fair today for his company, and maybe he will be able to share a little bit about the job fair, but we know he'll share about his company later. So thank you guys again for joining us. This is World Border Breakers with Taiwanda Bason. And today we have Abdullah Hajar with us. Thank you for joining us today, Abdullah.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, 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 yes. And so, you guys, again, Abdullah is at a job fair today. So we'll see how long we go. Maybe like in I know the job fair starts at 11, right?
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Okay. Okay, so we'll try to get some good questions in. Hi, Karen, and others who are joining us right now. Thank you for joining, and make sure you share the link because we got started a little bit late. Facebook deletes the posts that you make if you don't start on time. So if you're joining us, make sure to try to share the post right now with your friends on your pages or in groups so that others will be notified because the post that I made earlier was deleted. So people won't be able to access the link that I shared. Hopefully, it's notifying people right now through my page, and they should be able to join us that way. But there will also be a replay as the others that I had before. So you can look out for the replay after we're finished with this live. It should be able to broadcast straight from the post. Okay, and again, this is World Border Breakers with Taiwanda Basin, and we're with Abdullah Hajar today. So we're also, if you have questions, make sure you jot those questions down in the comments. And if you're watching at a later time, you can still jot your questions down. And at the end of today's interview, we're going to see if Abdullah will be able to answer some of those questions for you, any that you share with us today during the broadcast. Okay, so make sure you stay tuned to the end to see the answers to your questions, or you can watch the replay and check the comments then to see the answers that we may have given to any questions that you left in the comment section. And thank you guys so much for joining us today. And to get started, Abdullah, today we're talking about Saudi Arabia. But before we get into that little bit right there, tell us, where are you from?
Well, actually, I'm from New Jersey, born and raised, and I went to high school there, graduated from there, and then later on I went to Howard University. Was the first university that I attended, and then later on I attended Ashford University, your university, and then later on, I pursued a master's in project management with a university in close to Manchester, UK. It's called University of Salford. Yeah. Yeah, I was, like I said, I'm born and raised in the States, in New Jersey. Currently, I live in Northern Virginia. So, and that was after a 15-year stay overseas, and I'll tell you all about it shortly.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that information with us. And tell us, what first made you want to travel abroad?
Well, the first time I remember in university when I was at Howard, my mom used to always try to get me to fly home. And I was afraid to fly. And I told her, listen, if I'm supposed to fly, I would have wings. I said, there's bus, there's a train, I can get there, in just a little bit longer time, but I'll get there safely that way. But in 1996, I had a desire to travel to Saudi Arabia to perform the pilgrimage called Hajj. And obviously,
Mhm.
there's no way that I was going to get there except that I flew. So, I got over my fear and I got the ticket and I flew there in 1996. And it was a real experience for me. So that just opened opened up things for me. I wanted to travel everywhere after that. Um, so in 1998, I went back again, and then finally in 2002, I went to teach English as a second language, which was it seemed like that was the easiest way to get into the country at that time. So that's how I went. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And so would you say that being Muslim gave you an advantage?
Um, no, no, I wouldn't.
Okay, I
I
just
wouldn't say
want to
at all.
know. People may want to know. They may say, well, because you're Muslim, people who are trying to go to certain places. So that's why I want to ask. That's my job.
Yeah, no. Actually, in my experience, as a teacher in Saudi Arabia, I've had um, I've seen where they prefer um, a Westerner that isn't Muslim, as opposed to one that is. I mean, as you see, I have a beard, and for some of the institutions that I've worked at, they prefer that I didn't I didn't look a certain way, that or that I wasn't. Uh, they even they prefer um, a white Westerner over a black Westerner because they just believe that that person speaks better English, and would be more accepted in the classroom. And actually, it's that's not true. It's not true at all. Students actually, it seems that they build a better rapport um, with uh, I won't say a black um, a black foreigner, a black Westerner, but someone just that they can relate to, and a lot of the white Westerners that were born there, they just weren't familiar with the culture. They weren't familiar with the how to deal with the students, and some of them had problems in the classroom. But they were there. They had a goal. They wanted to make some money, some tax-free dollars, and they got offered lots of money. And they went there, they did that, and most of them saved their money, and really they benefited, from the experience.
Okay. And so did you know Arabic before you went there to Saudi Arabia?
I could read and I could write, and I could speak some basic Arabic. And however, what I learned was classical Arabic, which is what they call Fusha, and and that's rarely spoken in the streets. They speak more of a slang Arabic, and I wasn't familiar with that. And funny thing was, when I got there, I recall having to take a taxi, and I stopped one taxi driver and I asked him, "Do you speak Arabic or English?" And he was a Bangladeshi driver, and they speak what they call pidgin Arabic, like it's a broken Arabic. So he said something to me in Arabic like Arabi Inglisi ما في مشكلة ما في. They always like move their heads like this when they speak, Indian and Bengali. So I started to speak to him in classical Arabic, and he didn't understand what I was saying, and so then I realized that, well, the Arabic that I learned wasn't going to work there. So I had to go back, and you learn the broken Arabic just from interacting with people in the streets, going to the stores and the little markets and things like that. So that's how I learned, the broken or the slang, Arabic while I was there.
Mhm. Okay, okay, cool, cool. So we see how you can learn Arabic by just picking it up when you're in a place, if you're motivated to do so.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. Now you mentioned that you were there teaching in Saudi Arabia, and one of the things I know is that you have to have a sponsor going there to their country. So could you tell us who was your sponsor and how does sponsorship work there?
Well, as you said, yeah. In order to go to Saudi Arabia, you have to have a sponsor. Well, that's if you're going on a work visa. There are various types of visas now that they offer. You can go on a work visit visa or business visit visa, or whatever. They have various kinds. However, I was going there on a work visa, and originally I went to teach English to children, third grade children, which was a totally new experience for me. And they were third grade boys because they separate the genders at an early age, normally at third grade. So I ended up with third grade boys. I was a classroom teacher. I taught them math and science and social studies and English, obviously. And we did all kinds of projects and all kinds of things. It was really fun. But anyway, after being there for a couple of years, um, I I had to go back to the States uh, for a couple of months to get a new visa because I had to change sponsor. And so some sponsors will allow you to transfer sponsorship while you're there in the country, while others request that you leave and you go on an exit visa. And then if you want to come back, you come back with a new visa, and a new sponsor. Um, I did that, and I worked for um, a government organization for a couple of years, which was pretty rewarding, and I learned a lot. And I was also in a new um, it was something new for me as well because I started teaching medical terminology, which was something that was new to me, and that actually opened doors for some other things that I'm sure we'll talk about in the future. Um, but after being there for 2 years, my contract wasn't renewed, and I had to get another sponsor. I didn't want to leave the country because leaving the
Mhm.
country was a real hardship. I had family, and it was going to be a lot. Plane tickets and moving my things and all. So um, at that time, I happened to be teaching. I happened to be the private English teacher for the brother of Prince Al Walid bin Talal. Al Walid bin Talal is a very wealthy businessman, and uh, his family is he's from the Saud family. So his brother was also really nice guy, and he had three sons, and I taught actually, and he has a daughter, and I taught his three sons and his daughter. His daughter was very small. I guess she was about 8 years old at the time. And I became the private teacher for them, and he decided to put me under his sponsorship, which was nice because that gave me the ability to kind of be free. I could work where I wanted to work. I just present the letter showing that I'm with the prince, and so that allowed me to do a lot of things. And actually that let me um, also kind of do some business as well.
Mhm. Okay, okay, cool. And tell us a little bit about the package, such as like the
Well,
salary benefits, housing. People want to know those things.
yeah, you know, um, I'll tell you one thing that I didn't know. Well, maybe things were different when I first got there. I was getting uh, about $2,000 uh, per month, which was like it's about 7,500 reals. It's not a lot of money, but I didn't know, you know. And so that's one of the benefits of speaking to someone that's been there and done that, is that they can kind of tell you what to look for and what to do. As a Westerner, um, and if you're a native English speaker and you have experience teaching ESL, um, or whatever you're going over to whatever you're going to do when you go to work there, I really suggest that you really investigate and you negotiate because everything is negotiable in the Middle East. That's part of their culture. They like to barter. They like to bargain. They like to, I mean, negotiating is a big thing there. So you'll find that when you go to the stores, the price is marked, at 5 reals, but the person will try to get it for 3, and that's just how it is there. So I didn't know that, and I didn't do that. So I took a low salary. Um, but as the years progressed, I learned more, and the salaries actually increased as well. And I recall one year when I was working, I was teaching English at one institution, um, and I was the head of the English language department or English language center. So I made my schedule so that I only worked in the mornings. In the afternoons, I went to King Saud University, and I taught there in the afternoons for 4 hours. So I was getting a nice salary from both places, um, which was really nice. I was pulling in like, I don't know, about $8,000 a month. So that was
Mhm.
pretty good. Um, so you can work things out, and but really you have to negotiate. Don't go there, um, or investigate, I should say. Check and see what other companies are offering. Some offer a basic package. Normally, what it is, it's the basic package. Um, 25% of that is supposed to be for housing, and 10% of that is supposed to be for transportation. That's how it's supposed to work out. However, some places give you a full package, and they tell you that you're responsible for your own transportation and um, uh, your own housing. Or some places will give you a basic package, and they'll tell you we'll provide you housing and we will provide you transportation, meaning from your housing to the accommodation. I'm sorry, from the accommodation to the facility where you're going to be working. So you just have to look at the whole thing, make sure that you have good medical benefits. They'll also oftentimes they'll offer benefits medical, but you don't know if you have A or B or C, or what type of package you have. So that's important too, especially if you have health concerns. You want to make sure that you're going to be offered good medical that's going to ensure that you're taken care of if you have a need. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's really good advice for those who are considering going there. I certainly have clients who contact me about living and traveling abroad, especially teaching. I've had a couple that contact me recently about going to Saudi Arabia as well. So this will definitely be some helpful information for them in terms of talks about their package that they're being offered. Now, as far as like your first year there, tell us a little bit about your work and how was that for you your first time there, because that was your first time leaving the USA, right?
Yes, it was. Well, it was the first time, yeah, leaving for work,
Hmm.
and that was in 2002. Um, and actually, I had a problem that year because um, I was anxious to go, but the employer didn't process the visa properly. So they they didn't process a visa for my children.
Mm.
Um, so you know, I had already resigned from my job. I was working at that time in New York State Department of Corrections, um, and I had to I had to work. So I made arrangements for my children, and I left. And
Hmm.
that year was really it was a really difficult year for me because I was really sad because my children weren't with me, but I was giving all of my time and love and everything to these students, these little boys, and they became my children, uh, and I had some of them that really liked me to the point where I ended up. One of them asked me if he could spend the night, and he wanted to come over, and I didn't let him spend the night, but I did, meet up with him on the weekend. We played football, soccer, you know, they call it football overseas, right? And so it was a real challenge the first year. It was a challenge also because you start to get homesick. You can't speak, you can't really communicate with people. You don't know people. You're just trying to find people, trying to find Westerners that you can meet up with. Um, Food is not some of the food. At that time, it was different. Now there are loads of restaurants in Saudi Arabia all over the place, Western restaurants and everything. But at that time, I was tired of seeing rice. They love rice and chicken. I said, man, I don't want to see another rice again. I was just really tired of it. And so it was a real adjustment. It was adjustment. It was hot. It was really hot in the months of like July, August. In July and August, it gets really hot there. It can get up to 120, 125. It gets really, really hot. So it's not always that hot. It might be like 110. You become acclimated. You get acclimated to it, but because it's a dry heat, it's not humid in Riyadh anyway. However, if you're in Dammam or if you're in Jeddah, it's very humid because on those ends you have beach. The beach is there, and so it's more humid. And so it takes some adjusting. It takes some time to get adjusted to it. And by the way, don't think that Saudi Arabia only gets hot; it gets very cold as well. And it's that bone-chilling cold where, like, I mean, I don't know. It's really hard to explain, but you have to layer yourself. You have to really, dress appropriately for it. So, and there are parts of Saudi Arabia that do get snow. So, it's. But I must say, you don't see four seasons. You don't see four. It's normally like there are two seasons basically. It's summer, and I don't even know if you really want to call it winter, but it's there's no spring. There's no. You won't find leaves falling off trees. You won't see flowers blooming and blossoming. So it's yeah. Normally, when the seasons have changed, because what happens is, and it's strange, but what happens is there's normally a dust storm, or sometimes a series of dust storms, and that kind of indicates that the season is changing. And dust storms are really bad. So if you have asthma, be really prepared for it. Make sure you have your mask and everything you need.
Definitely, yes. It is dusty there. Now, you went through your first year, so tell us, how long did you actually stay there?
Well, as I mentioned, I went there in 2002. I did come back uh, just to change my visa for a couple of months, and then I went back. I returned to Saudi Arabia, and I didn't return to the States again until 2014. So I stayed there, basically 12 years without returning to the States. But after coming back in 2014, it was like, wow, I missed a lot, So I came back again. I think I went twice in 2014, and I was there like the latter part of 2014. So I was there for New Year's, 2015, and then I don't believe I went back in 2016, but I went in 2017, and I actually went twice in 2017. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So there's a lot, a lot we want to unpack here. But tell me as well, what um, what did you do after your first year there?
After my first year there,
Yes, what did you do after your first year? Because your contract was more than likely for 1 year, right?
right. So I mean, I was when I went back to get that to change sponsorship. I worked things out, so I was able to bring the children this time, and it was obviously it was going to be a new experience because and I'll tell you about this. So if anyone is planning to bring their children there, there's a lot to consider. Um, One of the things, obviously, would be education for your children. Your children are in the West. They're getting a Western education. There are certain things that they're going to be exposed to. Um, Sports, for example. If you have children that enjoy sports, well, they may not have those opportunities or those outlets like they would have in the West. If they like softball or football or uh, U.S. football, I mean, or baseball, they won't see those things, in Saudi Arabia. However, some Westerners that started some groups um, for youth, um, and so we had flag football with the boys. Um, there was there was basketball. Um, there was also jiu-jitsu for boys and girls, actually. So that was nice. Um, but the biggest, I guess, the biggest adjustment after that first year, like I said, was just really for the children. I got there. I was kind of strict, and I didn't want to expose the children to everything. And they were saying, "Hey, well, our friends have PlayStation, our friends have this," And I realized later on that, well, they don't really understand what's on the TV right now. There were only a few English stations that we had access to at that time. So I had to get PlayStation for them. I had to get, Wii for them. I had to, have something for them to do. Um, and that's why I was really thankful that those groups started for them to play sports and things like that because, um, my kids didn't know anything about soccer, and, we started to meet, more Westerners while we were there. Um, you can kind of pick them out when you go to the stores and stuff in the malls. Like, hey, I know that guy. He's got to be from the States. Sometimes you think he's from the States and he's actually from England. He comes with a British accent. But still, you're happy to meet a Westerner. You have something in common. You can speak the language with them, and So that whole first year was just a real big adjustment for both. Or after the first year, it was a big adjustment for me, but more so for my children.
Okay. And how did you actually end up recruiting for the healthcare industry?
Well, I was there. I had a recruiting background back in the '90s, where I used to recruit uh, IT professionals, uh, and the company that I was working with recruited both IT professionals and mortgage bankers. I didn't do mortgage banking, but I did IT, and then I left that for some time. And I started working in corrections. However, when I went overseas, people started saying, "Hey, listen, I'd like to come over there too. Can you help me?" So they would send me resumes, and I
Mhm.
started to build a little resume database. And people say, "Hey, well, my background's in IT. I don't know anything about teaching English. I'm not interested in that, but can you find me a job in IT?" So what happened was I started teaching. I started recruiting for in education and IT. However, because I started working in healthcare. I started teaching English to future doctors. I was teaching medical terminology, and um, so I was in the hospital. So people started saying, "Hey, well, you work in the hospital. Can you get me a job in the hospital?" So I said, "Hey, well, let me just throw healthcare in there as well." So I started doing all three. Um, I had a friend who I worked with who who was good with building websites, and he built me a website, and it was on. I registered the business as kind of like an online business. I didn't have a business license in the States at the time. Um, but surprisingly, everything worked out. I never had any getting paid. Um, and I started, like I said, I was recruiting educators. I did some IT, and I did loads of healthcare professionals. Um, so that's how it started off, just with people sending me resumes asking me to help them get a job.
Okay, okay. So we can kind of see how things got started. So you went for teaching, and then you kind of branched out into other things as you got more into your work, and you just kind of evolved like what you did along the way. Now, you mentioned some of the little hiccups that can happen, like with your visa, a couple other things as well. Did you have any experiences with racial bias or discrimination while you were there? Because that's something a lot of people would like to know.
Yeah. Um, there is some discrimination. I mean, discrimination is everywhere. Um, um, at my first job there, I recall wearing the dress that because I spent some time in 1999 in the UAE for that.
Mhm.
So I bought. I had some what they call jalabiyas or thobes or whatever the Emirati, the UAE dress, for the men. I bought some of those. I had them made, and because I was in the Middle East, I said, hey, well, I'm gonna wear this to work. This is what I started wearing to work. I recall my the head of the school where I was working. I guess he was the general manager at the time. He came to me and he said, "What's this you're wearing? What's this?" I said, "It's what's what?" He said, "I want you to wear what you used to wear in the States." I said, "Well, actually, this is what I used to wear in the States because, I was working in the prison system. Actually, I was the Muslim chaplain in the prison. So, representing my faith, that's what I wore. Just like the Catholic, priest wore, his dress, and the Jewish wore his dress. So I wore mine. So I said, well, this is what I wore. So he didn't like that. He said, well, what's this anyway? What's this, Sudani? You know, so Sudani, from Sudan, this is this is supposed to be like they're kind of trying to belittle you, like, what, you from Sudan? So even the kids, when they're in the streets playing, if a child is a child of color, you know, they they might try to belittle them or demean and call them Sudan. So that was my first experience. Um, I had other experiences with my next employer, where they didn't like me wearing that dress. They wanted me to wear more like what I'm wearing now, suit and tie, and actually I didn't have any, but they said, well, you're Western, so you should wear Western dress. Um, and at that time, I don't know, I was kind of opposed to it a little bit. I didn't want to wear, suit and tie. Now I have no problems with it, and the reason why, and it started actually in Saudi Arabia, because what I realized was I was competing with, um, I was a Westerner, but I wasn't a Westerner in their eyes. I had to have been from someplace in Africa, and I had to know where I was from. So they will always ask you, where are you from? Sudan? Are you from Ethiopia? Are you from Somalia? Are you from, and they always try to say that you're from some place. And, if they knew the history, they would know that many of us in America don't know where we're from originally, you know. Um, but I felt that I was always competing with white Westerners. And that's one of the reasons why I continued my studies while I was there. Um, I got a black belt in Lean Six Sigma, which is dealing with process improvement. I I got a project management certificate. I got a master's in project management. And I just had to change everything. I changed my dress. I changed my car even because I had a van, and driving a van as a black person, you know, um, in Saudi Arabia, they assume that you must be a driver from Africa somewhere. So like there's always something. I had to get rid of the van. I bought an Infinity. And I tried to just try to change the image and the perception that people had of me. Through my dress and my education and the way I dealt with people. Everything. So but there's discrimination. It's real, and you have to try to find ways to overcome it.
Okay, so as a recruiter, did you have any requests from partners that made you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah, I did. I had requests from recruiters, from companies where they would say, for example, find us. We want a Westerner. I said, okay, yeah, no problem. They said, no, you don't understand. I said, what do you mean I don't understand? They said, no, we want a Westerner with blonde hair and blue eyes. Or another one said to me, we want a Westerner. I said, okay. He said, yeah, I want like a tomato face. I said, what do you mean tomato face? He said, a white person, like when they get upset, they get mad, their face turns red like a tomato. He said, I want one of those people. So they didn't want, and so I asked him, well, what's wrong with, a black person? Why not just a qualified person? Why do you have to? He said, well, because, maybe if he's black, maybe, the kids won't feel comfortable with him in the classroom. And, so it was that kind of thing that I dealt with. And for some of those, well, both of those that asked me for those or made those requests, I just didn't recruit for them. I didn't feel comfortable. I would rather look for the most qualified individual, regardless of whether he's white or black or whatever. If he's qualified, then that's the person I'm going to give you, and I'm not going to recruit based on a person's skin color.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's good. How you handled that. Now, what were your areas of focus as a recruiter?
Well,
Like, did you focus on areas, contracts, countries? What was your
well,
focus?
yeah, I recruited from Anglophonic countries, so those are native English-speaking countries. So I dealt with Canada, the U.S., South Africa, England, Australia, uh, Ireland, New Zealand, even. Those are the countries that I was recruiting from, um, and those were for mostly for English teachers. For healthcare, um, most of the hospitals didn't they couldn't afford a Westerner. It had to be a large hospital, where they would like to have Western doctors or nurses, and they would be able to afford. It's 11 o'clock. So uh, I for those I recruited from Egypt, I recruited from Jordan, I recruited from I don't know all over. Wherever I could find, from Sudan even, so wherever I could find qualified individuals. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And actually, let me find my questioning here. Uh, what is or what would you say is the biggest mistake that you saw candidates making that you would tell them to try to avoid? Because I know you've seen that as a recruiter, you're accepting applications, and people trying to get jobs. I know I've seen it, since I started my business. So what would you say?
Biggest mistake. Hmm. Uh, I don't know. Some people really just don't know how to make a resume. So I think that they should really, go back, look at there are loads of templates that they can use, that they can find. Find a good template. Make sure that they really make sure. I mean, if you're going over to teach English as a second language, make sure that your resume is grammatically correct. You know, if I'm going to be, if I'm the recruiter, and I'm a native English speaker, I'm looking at all of that, all of those things, and especially if I do a face-to-face or not a face-to-face, but we call it a video interview, or something like that. I would expect that person to speak, correctly. I'm going to be making note of all of these things, and that person, um, regardless of what he looks like or where he's from, um, if that employer might want them, but uh, you know, I'm putting this is my reputation. I mean, I have to make sure that I give them a qualified person that that's going to add value to their organization. So I
Mhm.
wouldn't want to have someone that that doesn't know how to write a good resume or cover letter. So I think that they really just need to make sure that they that they write a good one. Um, and I don't know what other mistakes I saw. Uh, I can't really recall too many other than that.
It's okay.
Uh, but
Yeah, the cover letter.
I'll tell you that one thing also is that people don't. A lot of people that apply are not really qualified. And so I would suggest that people really make sure, candidates make sure that if they're going to apply for a job, that they're really qualified for it. That they've done the studying that they're supposed to, or what they meet the requirements um, based on the advertisement or the job posting, whatever it is, you know, um, because they're wasting their time, they're wasting the recruiter's time, and everyone's time, by applying knowing that they're not qualified. So just take your time, whether you be in the states, wherever you are, and get the qualifications that you need, so that when you apply, you have your chances of getting that job are greater. You have a greater chance for success.
Okay. And what would you say determines status in Saudi Arabia? And would that apply to a foreigner as well who is there, or is it different for foreigners as opposed to the locals?
So what determines status?
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, you know, uh, normally they look at qualifications. They do also look at color. However, nowadays, because they're pushing the Saudization, or they're trying to employ their own citizens, so those positions that were in the past, uh, positions that were occupied by maybe a foreigner, like myself, for example. I was the HR director of a hospital. That would no longer happen because an HR director has to be a Saudi citizen. And there are a lot of positions that were once positions held by foreigners that are now only for Saudi citizens. Um, so, but I don't know. It's kind of more about, like, I guess, where you're from, and what you know. It's kind of also who you know. That's a big thing. It's a very nepotistic society, so connections are big in Saudi Arabia, and networking is really big. So I really suggest that any person that goes over, that they meet with people, that they meet with the wheelers and dealers, the big players. Those people that can really help open doors for them.
Mhm. Okay, and just want to take a moment to let our viewers know if any of you have joined us later in the broadcast or you watch the replay, be sure to post your questions if you have any, and we will get to those at the end of the interview. Or if you're posting during the replay, then we'll be checking the post from there and seeing what you're asking and see if we can get some answers out to you. And today we're joined by Abdullah Hajar, who has worked in Saudi Arabia for over a decade. He's back in the USA right now, though. However, we're going to go ahead and continue on with our interview. And we want to ask you, Abdullah, since you had a family there, and there are a lot of people who may have a child, maybe have a husband and a child. Uh, what was it like having a family there?
It was challenging. It was challenging. I mean, one of the things that, especially if you have small children, you'll find that even though I was an English teacher, you find that your own children, when they're small, also they struggle with English language because they're around kids that speak broken English. So you're constantly trying to correct them and trying to get, and you don't understand why your child doesn't speak correctly. Like, what's wrong with you? You're from the States, but actually, when they're small like that, they don't know the States. So that's the challenge. Uh, Educating them is really it's really difficult because if you don't have an employer that gives you tuition reimbursement, you're going to have to pay for them to go to an international school, and an international school is really expensive. Yes, they do give discounts for multiple children, but they're very costly. So I don't know. One option might be to homeschool them, or to have some kind of a program from the states. I did. University of Missouri has a program. I did that program for kids. It's can't recall exactly what it was called at the time, but it's through the University of Missouri. I did that for some time. People use K through 12 or K-12. There are lots of programs that you can do, um, but that was the real challenge. I guess the biggest challenge was educating them, and it's a big expense if you're going to put them in the schools there. It's a really big expense. And then the sad thing about it is, um, you're paying a lot of money and they're not getting the education that you really want them to get. You know, doesn't matter if they're an American at the American International School, or British International School, or wherever they are. Those schools are still not um, uh, equivalent to, or on the same level as some of the better schools that they could have gone to here, possibly for free. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. And I don't know if that could, if it depends, because I think sometimes the way that we're used to like education, uh, it can be done differently. I don't know. Like for me, like I'm kind of like an alternative like educator, and so I did things a lot, or at least tried to do things a lot different than what they were normally, and maybe because I worked in special education to begin with in the USA, so I knew that certain things were, we had to teach the standard things that they wanted the students to learn, for testing and all those, for again, like the standards and those type of things. But I knew that the students that I had, they couldn't learn like other students. I mean, sometimes we had to reach them different ways. So I probably was kind of alternative in things. For instance, and not to cut it here, but and I would do this when I went abroad as well, like with teaching with the students. And sometimes they didn't understand. Like at some of the schools where I was, they're like, "Why are you doing this? Why do you have them doing like film projects, whatever?" They didn't see the value in the education, but um, finding something engaging, and then also things that could be applicable to them in real life. That's what I would do. And so in the US, this one time I had the students to go to the gym. I asked them, I said, "Is the gym available like this week?" And the principal was like, "Yes." I said, "Well, I want to use the gym for my students during the math period." And so what I had to teach to my students was fractions, decimals, and percentages.
Okay.
And like, how am I going to teach this to these students? Most of them were boys and a couple girls in there. And these kids don't really like to stay still, and they can hardly grasp certain things. And I don't want them acting up. So, during this time, so I thought about, I said, what could encompass all of those things in real life, and something that they like, and something that many people do, but they don't think about this, that is needed. I said, basketball. Basketball encompasses all those things, and people don't realize it when they're telling you the free throws that they're making from the line. So, whereas a regular teacher would like maybe go from the textbook and just on the board and everything, my students didn't realize it, but they were also having fun. So they didn't realize that they were going to learn in the beginning. After they did it, the first time, then they realized that, oh, and they were actually excited to actually do those calculations because they want to know how well they did. It's like, okay, now you're going to go play. So they get to play, during the math session. And for like the girls, if they didn't want to play, they could, keep the score and everything like that. And so when we got back, they were excited to do the calculation because they want to know what's their percentage, from the 3-point line and how many, did they have to shoot in a row and then just converting all of those things. So I think some people are like, what is she doing? But and it was different than what other people were doing. So I think, and that's what I did like abroad. And again, sometimes they didn't understand. Like,
Yeah.
so
you become
I had
creative.
an entire class. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you become really creative, and try to find innovative ways to teach them. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And it may not be seen again, like other people say, that's not education. Like I had an entire class X in China, entire course. Because they were like, what is this? Okay. So the question, were any of your children born in Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, yeah, they were, and I have, so they learn both languages, because of their friends, and um, we had a maid that was from Ethiopia, and they learned Amharic, which is the Ethiopian language as well. So it was, it was nice. It was challenging, they learned words I didn't even know. I was like, what's he talking about?
Kids, yeah, they're gonna know.
Yeah.
They're gonna pick up on them.
Yeah.
So, and what about your wife? I mean, was she cool with the idea of being there, that long? Or, was she able to find something to do herself? We know you were working. How was it for her? Was it good?
She was working too. Yeah, she was working too. So we were both busy. We were both busy, and like I said, we had a maid that kind of helped, to make things a little easier for us while we were there. Um, but yeah, it wasn't a challenge for her. It was good for her.
Okay. And so tell us, like, what would be the biggest advantage for having a family abroad?
Um, well, one of the things that we did, which was really nice, was we took advantage of being there, and we traveled. We traveled the world. We as a family. So we went to other places, that we would never have been able to, or never have maybe thought to go to had we been here. Like we traveled to Turkey, we traveled to Sri Lanka, uh, you know, Malaysia, uh, like various countries. I have family went to Thailand, family went to Sudan. So it was nice. It was nice being there because you're kind of in the center of everything, and you can easily get to different places. I went to England, obviously, because I studied there. Um, so it was really, that was nice. So having family together, enabled you to travel and see other parts of the world, and experience other cultures and languages.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yes, I would agree with you. I know quite a few people who are traveling like with their families and they do have kids as well. Now, at the opposite end, what would you say would be a disadvantage of having a family abroad?
Um, I don't know. I mean, Saudi Arabia is pretty affordable, especially compared to here. I went and bought pizza yesterday, cheese pizza. It was like $15 here, and it was a large. $15 is, I don't know. You're talking like 50 something reals, in Saudi Arabia. However, you can buy a large pizza in Saudi Arabia for 30 reals, so there's a big difference, and so the cost for food, the cost of living, it's a tax-free country. Although actually now they have some tax, um, but salaries are not taxed. Um, so you do have to, but you still have to file income tax returns. You're supposed to.
Yeah.
Uh, and actually, the U.S. has made an agreement with the Arabian monetary agency, so they can come in and check to see what you made and what was deposited in your account to, if they want to audit you at some point. So you have to be
Yeah.
careful about that. But let's see, disadvantages of having family. I can't really think of any. Family is a big thing, especially overseas, and having a family, with you. Yeah, there are going to be some challenges that you're going to face, but you will face challenges anywhere. Healthcare is affordable over there, so if you have your family with you, you can get some things done there that you wouldn't be able to afford, if you were here, and didn't have good healthcare coverage. So it's
Mhm.
I think there are a lot of advantages and a lot of pros to having
Yeah.
family with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why should someone consider working in Saudi Arabia?
Why should someone consider?
Yes, in your
Um,
opinion.
well, just making a good salary, experiencing a new culture, being being able to travel. I know a person that travels like, I don't know. I mean, every month she's going somewhere. So it's a chance to travel to places, uh, easily. It's more affordable, and it's just really um, it's a chance to really make some good money too. Like I said, but that's if you have some discipline. Like, you can't don't get there and make a lot of money and say, hey, well, all of this stuff is cheap, I'm going to start buying, and you start spending and you don't save. Make sure you save and you benefit from that time, so that when you come back here, because eventually you're going to have to come back to the States at some point, or go somewhere, but at least you want to have something saved up. I know you probably don't have plans to come back here anytime soon, but
Well, it's I'm not sure about soon, but it is on my list to like visit because I want to see what it's like since they've had the changes
yeah,
um there in Saudi Arabia. Like you mentioned, like taxing, they actually have a tax now, which like people are just losing it over there. They're like, oh my goodness, 5%, 5%. I'm like 5%. Okay, so but for them, it's like something totally new that they never done. So I can see why they are like freaking out. But they have a lot of things that are going on there. They're building a subway in Riyadh, which they're going to extend to other cities. Like once they see what it's like, they have Technology City on its way. Tabuk, and Tabuk of all places. But
well,
that would be a good place to take it. So,
yeah, a
um,
lot of people think that Saudi Arabia is just sand, just desert, and or UAE is like that or whatever. But they're very developed, and actually, I would say more developed, although they call them developing countries, but they're more developed than the States. One thing that always like the States is a country that was built, and you don't see much change. You'll see telephone wires, and telephone poles and stuff like that, and you don't see those in Saudi Arabia. Everything is underground. Um, yeah, there's some things that they don't have. For example, they don't have gas lines like we have here that go underground, so that you can just go in the kitchen and turn the stove on. And the gas is there. You have to go and buy a gas canister and connect it to your stove. Um, they, but they have running water. They have they have everything. The technology is big over there. Um, I think the highest mobile use or cell phone usage, might be in that area. It's really, there are a lot of things there that they have
Yeah.
there that they just don't have here. And we're kind of a little behind, I guess, in some areas. They have the money and they don't mind spending it for technology. Um, and like UAE, they pride themselves on being the big, having the biggest this or the best that. So they like want to have the tallest building, and they're competing with Saudi Arabia about the tallest building. And they have the largest mall, and so um, they're 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 very advanced. Very advanced in a lot of areas.
Okay. And so, what have you had any horror experiences abroad?
Any car experiences?
Yeah.
Um,
If you haven't, it's okay.
well,
I have,
I, I,
but
I shipped my car from the States to Saudi Arabia, and I was all happy. I had a little van. I had a Dodge Caravan. I shipped, and I remember driving. Like I said, it gets really hot in Saudi Arabia, and I was driving, and like the first couple of weeks, um, within the first couple of weeks of getting my car there and driving it, all four of my tires burst while driving. And it's because tires have a grade, like grade A, grade B, whatever. And it's based on temperature too. So the ground gets really hot there, and my tires couldn't take it. So they just they're like, no, can't do it, and they just burst. While I was driving. So I had those issues there, and I guess my car just wasn't. It was like, what's going on? It's just too hot over here, So it just couldn't handle it, and so I had some problems with it. Um, I bought a car over there which didn't have AC in the back; it only had AC in the front, and that was crazy, because you need AC like all over the place in Saudi Arabia. But the next cars that I got were purchased there, um, and they were good. But as I mentioned earlier, you know, uh, like I kind of wish that I didn't buy a van. I wish if I wanted a large car that I had gotten like a GMC, like a Suburban or Yukon or Tahoe or something larger, because you get more respect with that. You don't get respect when you have a van. It's just you know they think that you're a driver for some family. And I didn't know that at the time. I had three vans while I was over there, so I dealt with a lot. Yeah.
can't worry about what people think. Okay, so you were over there. You did quite a bit. You taught. You worked in the recruiting industry as well. So, can you tell our viewers what are some alternative gigs that they can consider besides teaching that you've done or that you know of?
Well, I know people that have gone over and they were uh, they were IT professionals. Some people went over as healthcare professionals. Um, but if you want to go over, if you're in English, if you have a background in English, there are a lot of other things that you can do. Like you can do some editing work. You can help people with their dissertations. Reviewing their dissertations and helping them with those. You can help people prepare for TOEFL and IELTS exams, um, uh, or other exams that they need that are that test their uh, that they have to be proficient in English in. Um, Everything is most things there are like bilingual English and Arabic. So, for example, in the malls or in restaurants, you'll find signs or menus that need to be written or edited or whatever. You can help with those things. Websites. I hired a person to work for the Chamber of Commerce to translate their website from Arabic to English. So you can work on those as well. So there are lots of things that can be done with English aside from the being in the classroom. Um, so the I guess it's kind of limitless.
Okay. Now, what are some recommendations that you would give to those considering going abroad?
Well, I was in the Middle East. However, there are a lot of other places. I mean, you don't have to go to Saudi Arabia. You can go to a lot of other countries and experience a lot of other cultures as well. Many of those places pay well pay well, and you want to just look for a good package. But before you go, really search, investigate, check things out, check out the company that you're going to. Make sure they pay on time. Because that's a big thing too. We're used to getting paid every week or every 2 weeks. Overseas, you get paid once a month. You want to make sure that you're going to get paid at the end of that month. Um, so that's something to consider as well. So just check everything out. And make sure that you investigate and just don't just jump on the first offer that comes to you, but do some comparisons and make sure that that offer is comparative to what others are being offered.
Okay, and what would you say? I'm sorry. I just went like blank, like for my question. So I think I need to. Oh, now that you're back in the USA, that's what I want to ask you. What was it like for you returning there after 14 years?
Well, I was gone for a total of 15 years actually. Because I left in 2002, I came back in 2017. I was like a foreigner in my own country. I really suggest that anyone who travels abroad that they visit a little bit more frequently than I did. That they keep those connections, that they know what's going on, and really, don't distance yourself so much to the point where you don't really know um, what's going on, because it makes your return a little bit more difficult. It's a little bit more difficult to become acclimated to, to things. Um, I so like job searching and everything like that was kind of a challenge for me upon return. One reason why is because all of my experience was overseas for the past 15 years. So I was like, it was almost like I had 15 years of unverifiable employment. You know? Because employers here are not going to call overseas, and most of them don't even ask for an email address. So it was kind of rough, and so that kind of led me to start my own recruiting and healthcare consulting company here. Upon return, trying to do many of the same things that I did abroad here, and I'm in a location now which should make things easy for me to get some business contracts and things like that. However, I would like to get with a larger company that would make it possible for me to make use of my experience and degrees, and hopefully make some big money, so I can prepare for that day when I want to retire. Yeah.
Okay. Well, how can you help our viewers, and how can they contact you?
Well, you can contact me at my first initial A, last name Hajar. If you want to email me, so it's AHAJAR @gmail.com. You can check me on you can see my website there, thinkopex.com. It's not the best website, but it's something, right? So it's think OPEX. OPEX stands for Operational Excellence, because, as I mentioned, I have a black belt in Lean Six Sigma, and I focus on process improvement and trying to make organizations more efficient and work more efficiently and effectively. So I can be. You can also check me at ahajar@thinkopex.com as well, or you can connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn too. So I accept everyone on LinkedIn basically, and I love to make connections, and so reach out and maybe we can even do some business together. I'm open to any business opportunity.
Okay, that is so awesome. And last couple of questions. Overall, how has life abroad changed your life?
Actually, I think that a lot of the experiences that I had overseas, I would never have had I been here. And I probably never would have studied project management. I probably never would have been exposed to the healthcare environment, um, or Lean Six Sigma, things like this. So, I really benefited from my time abroad. I learned a lot, um, not only in the classroom but outside. I learned about different cultures, and I met people from places that I'm sure I would never have met before. I learned about countries that I didn't even know existed. So it was a really beautiful experience. Um, yeah, I was gone for 15 years. That was a large part of my professional life, um, and a little bit. I won't tell my age, but a little bit less than a third of my life. Um, However, it was an important part of my life, and and one that I don't know, I really benefited a lot. And actually, although I'm here, I hope maybe within the next 5 years to have another overseas experience. But hopefully this time it'll be in the UAE. So I do have plans to go back overseas. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Awesome. So you guys, again, this is Abdullah Hajar, owner of Think Optics Healthcare. We thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your insight and for you taking the time out to come and meet us, even though you were caught in traffic today, but you still came. You still came out.
Yeah.
You had a job fair, and you still came out to talk to us, and we thank you for that. Again, if you guys would like to reach out to him, he has his website, thinkopics.com. So make sure you visit that, and you can find him on Facebook and LinkedIn and other social media as well. Um, are there any closing thoughts or advice that you would like to share with our viewers?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Say that again.
Yes, are there any closing thoughts or advice that you would like to share with our viewers?
Yeah. Well, if you're going abroad, I would say, and especially if you're going to spend some significant, time abroad, I would suggest that you really take advantage of that time. You know, Teaching is fun. People like to teach, but teach and travel, see the world if you can. But also try to have a plan in place. Don't go there and save your money. Try to save because you don't want to come back to the states or have to leave there and and not have anything. Um, if you intend or if you have any plans to study, really take advantage of that of the um, the money that you're making or whatever, and study. And I'm proud to say that I paid for my master's cash. I don't have any loans. I don't have any debts. So I really took advantage of that. I got back here. I got accepted into a doctoral program, um, and the cheapest program that I found was like 43,000, and I was like, do I really want to have to deal with loans and all of those things? And you know, I, I realized that really I don't need a doctorate for what I need to do for what I want to do. Um, but I do suggest that a person put their time and um, money into studying something, get some kind of certification, get something that's going to add some value to your resume, get something that's going to make you more marketable and more, and so that when you, not only while you're abroad, but when you come back here, you have something to offer. You know, that's what I really. But like I said, also try to see a few places over there. Enjoy the money too. Enjoy life. Um, have that balance. Yeah.
Okay, that is awesome advice for you guys who are considering whether going to Saudi Arabia or somewhere else. So again, we appreciate you for sharing with Abdullah, and this is something that a lot of people don't always get is a male experience for teaching in Saudi Arabia and working abroad and living with the family. We hear a lot from ladies, okay, which I share a lot as well. So we appreciate your side for the fellas out there, and then for the ladies who want to know, because there are a lot of things that you encompass that quite a few people will have to deal with factors, having a family, having young children, education, how to get into other, areas or gigs that they can consider besides teaching. So many things that are there. And we would also like to thank you, our viewers, as well, who joined us today, and those who may be watching the replay later. Again, feel free to reach out to Abdullah. His website you should have seen it like across the screen, so you can rewind if you need to. And also, he shared how to reach him on social media as well as his email. So make sure you reach out to him if you have any questions or anything. Is there anything you want to say?
Yeah, I'll just say, and if you're a nurse,
go ahead. You're at the job fair. Say it.
No plugin. So if you're a nurse looking for a job, or a healthcare professional looking for a job here in the States, reach out to me. Again, you can go to not only Hajar at thinkopex.com or my website, but you can also just go to jobs at thinkopex.com, send me your resume, and try to hook you up.
Okay, yeah. I mean, put that in there. That's why I asked. I would have had it across the screen if you had told me before. But definitely make sure you give those to me like afterwards, and I can put those in the description as well when I upload it later on to like YouTube. So thank you so much. I hope you have a really awesome time at the job fair today. And and viewers, again, thank you for joining us as well. And I want to let you know that if you have any questions or you need help with consultation to do like what Abdullah did or what I've done is traveling abroad, feel free to reach out to me as well. You can find me at TaiwandaBason.com and on Facebook and Instagram, as well as other social media at Taiwanda Bason. Again, this is World Border Breakers with Taiwanda Bason, and we want to thank our special guest, Abdullah Hajar, again. And we look forward to seeing what's going to happen with Think Topics. And hopefully, if anyone reaches out to you and they say they heard you from this broadcast, so guys, if you reach out to him, let him know that you heard it from the interview, okay, so that he knows. All right, well, we've taken up enough of your time today, so we're gonna let you get into that job fair and get some people employed in the USA now.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, and we'll see you guys later. Bye bye.
Take care.